Lieutenant Park moved first, his cloaked form gliding across the hull of the largest supply ship. He placed the quantum charges at key structural points, a new weapon designed to bypass Imperial shields by shifting slightly out of phase with normal space. On another ship, Sergeant Kim was doing the same. The rest of the team spread out, each targeting vital systems. Years of watching Imperial ships had taught them exactly where to strike. Back on Earth, Lieutenant Yoon Sua sat in her command center, monitoring the operation. Her job was equally important, making sure the Empire never figured out what really happened. Charges set, Park reported, ready to light up the sky. Kane checked his tactical display one last time. Remember, when these blow, we need to be gone. The Empire thinks humans can't operate this far from Earth. Let's keep them guessing. He took a deep breath. Execute. The quantum charges detonated silently in the vacuum of space. To anyone watching, it would have looked like the ships simply fell apart, their hulls splitting along seemingly random points. No explosions, no weapons fire, just catastrophic structural failure. As the Imperial crews scrambled to their escape pods, Yoon's team went to work. They flooded Imperial communications with conflicting reports. Some suggested solar flares had weakened the hull. Others hinted at manufacturing defects. A few even pointed to possible sabotage by rival alien species. Kang's team was already gone, their stealth ships slipping away into the darkness of space. Behind them, the Imperial supply fleet died in silence, its cargo of weapons and supplies tumbling into Mars' atmosphere. Mission complete, Kang reported as they headed home. How's the confusion campaign going? Yoon's voice came back, filled with satisfaction. Imperial Command is in chaos. They're already blaming each other for using substandard materials in ship construction. We've planted enough different theories that they'll spend months chasing shadows. The Empire had never faced an enemy like this. They were used to grand battles, to enemies who announced themselves with pride. The idea that humans would strike from darkness, leave no trace, and vanish, it went against everything they believed about warfare. As his ship approached Earth, Kang looked at the tactical display showing dozens of other Imperial supply routes. This was just the beginning. The Empire was about to learn that their greatest enemy wasn't the one that stood before them in battle. It was the one they couldn't see coming. "Good work, everyone," he said to his team. "Get some rest. Tomorrow, we do it again." Back in her command center, Yoon smiled as she watched Imperial communications descend further into confusion and blame. Sometimes, she thought, the greatest victories weren't won with weapons at all, but with doubt, fear, and uncertainty. The Empire's mighty fleet was still out there, but for the first time, they were looking over their shoulders, jumping at shadows. And in those shadows, Earth's defenders waited, ready to strike again. #adaptation and evolution. Major Baek Sung-ho wiped sweat from his forehead as he stared at the captured Imperial shield generator. For 3 months, his team had worked to understand how it functioned. Now, finally, they were close to a breakthrough. "Look at this," he said to his lead engineer. "Their shields operate on a fixed frequency, perfect against their standard weapons, but vulnerable to rapid frequency shifts." The engineer finished. "If we can modify our weapons to cycle through frequencies." That was just the beginning. Baek's team worked day and night, not just studying the shield technology, but figuring out how to make it smaller and more efficient. The Empire's shields were designed for massive ships. Earth needed something their soldiers could carry. Meanwhile, in the mountains of Korea, Captain Ryu Jun was teaching his troops a new kind of warfare. They wore prototype shield units, smaller than a backpack, but capable of stopping Imperial energy weapons. "The Empire fights like they're still in space," he told his soldiers. "They expect clear lines of sight, perfect formations. But Earth isn't space." He pointed to the heavy clouds rolling in. "They don't understand how to fight in rain, in snow and fog. Their sensors get confused by dust storms. Their formations fall apart in dense forests." His troops learned to use these weaknesses. They practiced fighting in thunderstorms, using the lightning to mask their shield signatures. They trained in sandstorms, where Imperial targeting systems failed. They became masters of using Earth's natural conditions as weapons. Commander Li Jinwu's hands trembled as he watched the massive alien fleet appear on Earth's long-range sensors. At first, they thought it was a system error. 3,000 ships, each bigger than anything humans had ever built, moved in perfect formation toward Earth. In the UN Security Council chamber, the air felt heavy. Admiral Kim Da-yeon walked to the center of the room, her face pale but determined. She pressed a button, and a holographic display lit up the dark room. Representatives from every nation leaned forward in their seats. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "what you're seeing is real. The fleet will reach Earth in 72 hours. The ships looked like giant silver arrows, their hulls gleaming under the distant starlight. Their energy readings were off the charts. One ship alone had enough power to level a continent." Someone in the back of the room whispered, "Dear God." Li Jinwu studied the tactical display. The alien ships moved with impossible precision, like dancers in a deadly ballet. Earth's combined space fleet looked like toys in comparison. Just 30 patrol ships and a handful of orbital defense platforms. "Can we fight them?" asked the U.S. President. Before Admiral Kim could answer, every screen in the room flickered. A face appeared. Almost human, but not quite. Its skin was pale blue, its eyes completely black. This was Imperial Commander Ta Sung-min. "People of Earth," the alien's voice was surprisingly soft. "Your world now stands at the edge of the Galactic Empire. For 10,000 years, we have brought order to the chaos of space. No world has ever defeated us. No army has ever broken our lines." Li Jinwu noticed something interesting. Despite their advanced technology, the aliens used very old military formations, like ancient armies on a battlefield, but in space. The alien continued, "You have 24 hours to surrender. Accept, and you will become part of the greatest civilization in history. Refuse." The camera panned out, showing the massive fleet behind him. "Well, you can see what you're facing." Admiral Kim muted the transmission and turned to the council. "They're powerful, yes, but they're also arrogant. Look at how they arrange their ships, like an ancient Roman army. They haven't faced a real challenge in so long, they've stopped evolving." Li Jinwu stood up. "Admiral's right. They expect us to either surrender or fight like they do. In big formations, ship against ship. But that's not how humans wage war anymore." The room grew quiet as people began to understand. Earth couldn't match the Empire's power, but maybe they didn't need to. Sometimes the smallest stone, thrown the right way, could bring down a giant. "Get me every Special Forces commander," Li Jinwu ordered. "Every guerrilla warfare expert, every tactical innovator we have. The Empire thinks they're facing a primitive world that will follow their rules of war." He smiled for the first time since the fleet appeared. "Let's show them how humans fight when we're cornered." Admiral Kim nodded, a fierce light in her eyes. "Commander Li is right. They expect an easy conquest or a traditional battle. Instead, they're about to face something they've never seen in 10,000 years, a species that throws away the rulebook." As the council chamber erupted in urgent discussion, Li Jinwu watched the alien fleet on the display. They were so perfectly arranged, so predictable in their movements. Too perfect, too predictable. The Empire had no idea what was coming. They were about to learn that humans were at their most dangerous when defeat seemed certain. And perhaps, just perhaps, that would be enough to shake the foundations of their 10,000-year-old empire. #The First Strike. Commander Kang Jae-won crouched in the shadow of his stealth ship, watching the Imperial supply fleet through his visor. The massive cargo vessels moved slowly through Mars orbit, their crews completely unaware of the trap they were about to spring. "Ghost Team, sound off," he whispered into his comm. 5 acknowledgement lights blinked green on his heads-up display. His team wore the latest Earth technology, experimental cloaking suits that bent light around them. They weren't perfect, but against the Empire's rigid scanning patterns, they might as well have been invisible. "Remember," Kang said, "we're not here for a big battle. Hit fast, hit hard, and vanish. Like shadows." The Imperial ships followed the same route they always did. The Empire's greatest weakness was their inability to imagine that someone would dare attack them. Their supply lines were barely protected. On his flagship, Admiral Tai was growing frustrated. His reports made no sense. Earth's soldiers seemed to appear from nowhere, strike with impossible precision, and vanish again. Worse, they were using Imperial technology in ways he'd never seen. "How are they blocking our weapons?" he demanded, watching footage of a failed attack. Earth soldiers, their suits glowing with stolen shield technology, had emerged from a dust storm to destroy an Imperial ground force. Before his reinforcements arrived, they'd disappeared into the harsh weather. The Empire's tactics hadn't changed in 1,000 years. They hadn't needed to, until now. Every time they adapted to one Earth strategy, humans would switch to something new. They fought in ways that made no sense to Imperial doctrine. Back in his lab, Major Bake made another breakthrough. By studying Imperial shield patterns, his team found a way to create temporary gaps, just big enough for Earth weapons to slip through. They designed these shields to be perfect, he explained to the military council. But perfect isn't always best. We're making them imperfect on purpose, making them flexible, adaptable. Captain Ryu's troops were the first to use the new technology in battle. During a heavy snowstorm, they ambushed an Imperial patrol. The Empire's soldiers, their sensors blinded by weather, never saw the attack coming. Their own shields, designed for maximum protection, couldn't adapt to the humans' rapidly shifting weapon frequencies. Admiral Ta watched another defeat from orbit. His perfect formations, his superior technology, his thousands of years of military doctrine, none of it seemed to matter. The humans didn't just adapt to Imperial technology. They changed it, improved it, used it in ways its creators never imagined. Earth wasn't just resisting, it was evolving. And for the first time in Imperial history, the mighty Empire found itself struggling to keep up with a species that refused to fight by the rules #Empire's crisis. Supreme Commander Han Jae-sung paced in the Imperial High Command chamber, his face dark with worry. The holographic displays around him showed an empire in chaos. Red warning lights blinked across star systems that had been secure for thousands of years. "Another defeat?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. His aide nodded. "3 more fleets lost. They're using our own shield technology against us, but different, better, and other species are starting to notice." That was the real crisis. For 10,000 years, the Empire had maintained control through superior technology and unshakable military doctrine. Now, humans weren't just beating them. They were showing the galaxy that the Empire could be beaten. Colonel Shin Mi-rae, head of Earth's Intelligence Division, watched intercepted Imperial communications with growing excitement. Her team had cracked their encryption months ago, and what they were seeing was revolutionary. "Look at this." She pointed to a message from a distant colony. "The Arcturus species is using hit-and-run tactics against Imperial patrols, just like us. And here, the Centauri have started modifying their shields the same way we did." The Empire had created perfect subjects by making them believe resistance was impossible. Now Earth was showing them not just how to fight back, but how to win. Commander Park Won-shik led the team analyzing reports from across Imperial space. Each day brought news of another species adopting human tactics. The Empire's rigid response made them predictable, vulnerable. "They can't adapt fast enough," Park explained to Earth's military council. "Their whole system is built on stability, on everyone following the same rules. We're teaching the galaxy a new way to fight." In his command chamber, Han Jae-sung received another devastating report. A minor species, one the Empire had ruled for 5,000 years, had destroyed an Imperial fleet using primitive weapons combined with human-style tactics. How? He demanded. How are they doing this? His advisors had no answer. The Empire's strength had become its weakness. Their perfect formations, their unchanging strategies, their belief in their own superiority. Humans had turned it all against them. Colonel Shin's intelligence team intercepted more messages every day. Some Imperial worlds were openly questioning their rulers. Others were secretly training their own guerrilla forces. The Empire's iron grip was slipping. They never imagined their subjects would learn to think differently, she told her team. Every defeat teaches another species that the Empire isn't invincible. Commander Park saw it in the data. A wave of revolution spreading across the stars. Humans hadn't just found a way to fight the Empire. They created a blueprint for rebellion that any species could follow. In the High Command Chamber, Han Jae-sung watched his perfect empire crumble. 10,000 years of order, destroyed not by a stronger enemy, but by one that simply refused to play by the rules. The Empire was facing something worse than defeat. It was facing change, and for the first time in its long history, the Empire didn't know how to respond. The turning point. General Kim Hyun-woo stood before the most unusual military force ever assembled. In the vast underground base on Mars, representatives from 12 alien species waited for his speech. Each had risked everything to join Earth's rebellion against the Empire. "You all know why we're here," he began. "For 10,000 years, the Empire told us we were alone. That resistance was impossible. They were wrong. The aliens looked different. Some had scales, others fur. Some weren't even humanoid, but their eyes all held the same fire. They had all tasted freedom, and they wanted more." Captain Oh Jae-yun moved through the training grounds, watching alien rebels practice Earth's combat techniques. They learned to use their natural abilities in ways the Empire never expected. Species with climbing abilities became masters of urban warfare. Those with enhanced senses excelled at ambush tactics. "The Empire expects us to fight like them," she explained to a group of scaled warriors. "That's why we don't. Every species has unique strengths. Use them." The biggest surprise came when Imperial officer Lee Sun-ho contacted them. He appeared on their secure channel, his blue uniform marking him as high-ranking Empire personnel. "I want to help," he said simply. "I've seen what's coming. The Empire is dying, and I choose to be on the right side of history." Lee brought with him something priceless, complete access to Imperial battle plans. He revealed the Empire's deepest weakness, their absolute inability to imagine defeat. General Kim used this knowledge to coordinate attacks across multiple systems. Earth's tactics, combined with alien abilities and Imperial intelligence, proved unstoppable. Where the Empire expected direct confrontation, they found empty space. When they fortified their positions, attacks came from unexpected directions. Captain O watched with pride as her alien students mastered human warfare. They learned to fight in ways that shocked Imperial commanders, using terrain, weather, and stealth just as Earth's forces did. "The Empire thinks warfare is about power," she told them. "We know it's about imagination." With each victory, more Imperial officers like Lee defected. They saw the future coming and chose to embrace change rather than cling to the past. The Empire's mighty fleets still ruled space, but their formation-based tactics were falling apart. They couldn't fight an enemy that refused to mass their forces for battle. Every time they gathered their strength, their targets simply vanished, only to strike elsewhere. In his command center, General Kim received reports of victories from across the galaxy. Species that had never fought back were rising up, using Earth's tactics with their own unique twists. "This is more than a rebellion now," he told his staff. "This is evolution. The galaxy is learning to fight back." The Empire had ruled through fear and rigid control. Now, faced with an enemy that embraced chaos and change, their power was crumbling. And in the ruins of their perfect order, something new was being born. An alliance of free species, each fighting in their own way, united by the simple truth Earth had taught them. Sometimes the greatest victory comes not from being stronger, but from being smarter, more adaptable, and willing to break all the rules. Hashtag New Galactic Order. Admiral Park Min-seo looked out over Earth's sprawling interstellar defense complex. Ships from 100 different species filled the skies. Once enemies, now allies. All of them here to learn, to share, and to ensure the Empire never rose again. The last Imperial stronghold had fallen just a week ago. General Yang Tai-young had led the final assault, combining tactics from 12 different species into something the Empire never saw coming. Their perfect formations shattered against an enemy that struck from every direction at once, using methods they couldn't predict or counter. Commander Nam Yuri walked through the halls of her newly established Interstellar Defense Academy. Each classroom held a different species, each learning to fight in their own unique way. Some were natural infiltrators, others born warriors, but all of them learned the same basic truth: adaptation was stronger than tradition. The Empire fell because it stopped learning, she told her students. They perfected one way of fighting and stuck to it for 10,000 years. That's why they lost to a species that had only just reached the stars. In orbit, Admiral Park watched training exercises between mixed species squadrons. Reptilian warriors worked alongside Earth special forces. Crystalline beings who could survive deep space fought beside aquatic species who excelled in liquid environments. Each brought their own strengths, their own perspectives. This is how we prevent another empire, he explained to visiting dignitaries. Not by becoming the strongest, but by learning from each other, by never stopping our evolution. The Empire's fall had changed everything. Species that once feared each other now traded knowledge freely. The galaxy learned that true strength came not from enforcing one way of life, but from embracing many. General Yang stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the combined fleet perform maneuvers. Ships of every size and design moved in patterns that would have shocked Imperial commanders. Organic, adaptable, unpredictable. The Empire thought unity meant uniformity, he said to his crew. We proved that true unity comes from diversity. From learning to fight differently, but fight together. Commander Nam's academy graduated its first class. Officers from 50 species, each trained not just in combat, but in innovation. They returned to their homeworlds carrying Earth's most important lesson: never stop adapting. The galaxy entered a new age. The rigid order of the Empire gave way to something more dynamic, more alive. Earth didn't become the new empire. Instead, it became a teacher, showing others how to defend themselves, how to think differently, how to evolve. Admiral Park stood in the Great Council chamber, where representatives from all known species gathered to ensure peace. The Empire's fall had taught them all that true security came not from strength alone, but from the wisdom to keep learning, growing, and changing. This was humanity's greatest victory, not destroying the Empire, but helping build something better in its place. A galaxy where every species was free to find its own path, yet united in the determination to never again let any power impose its will on all. The stars belonged to everyone now, and they were all stronger for it.